I'd like to call a meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals, City of Copeland to order for December. First item of business is approval of the minutes of November 3rd.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Anybody in the audience, if you have your cell phone or any other device, that request that you silence it. If you're going to speak, come to the microphone and state your name and address. Mr. Sheila.
Yeah, Mr. President, we have one case continued tonight. Item number 5, case 511 SE 24. This is petition of Nick Richardson at 1236 South Ohio Street. I believe he did not get all of his advertising done correctly, so his case will be heard at the next meeting.
Thank you.
So our first case tonight is case P23V24, the petition of Dana Charles and Ezra Taylor requested a variance to section 3.25 permitted uses in order to operate a tattoo piercing parlor in a neighborhood commercial zone. This is at 316 North Phillip Street.
I move that we approve case number P23-V-24 and adopt the findings of the petitioner as those of this board and make those findings part of the record, please.
Second.
Thank you. Is the petitioner here for, would come to the microphone and make sure you state your name and address, and
Sorry, I hope this isn't too painful.
if you would.
Yeah, hi, I'm Dana. That's Charles and Ezra. We're at 316 North Phillips, here in Kokomo. Do you want me to read the question or on the paper? Okay, sorry. So we're a family-owned and operated professional business, father and son team, with over 30 years' experience. It does not appear that there is any or would be any harm or threats to the public health, morals, or general welfare from the proposed establishment. It does not appear that the use or the value of adjacent property would be adversely affected. We are not facing any residential housing, only businesses. We will have mostly appointments only, low traffic, keeping good hours. And then we're fully invested in this business. We've been there since June trying to open. Our son Ezra, he's 20, and he's apprenticing from his father. He's learning how to tattoo. This is his college, his career, and his future. He's 20 years old. He's very talented. He's ready to start his life, and we would hope that you guys could, see it in your heart that we are good people and we want to continue opening up the shop. Ezra will be studying and apprenticing to tattoo under his father, and he's been drawing since he was a toddler. He has a huge imagination. He can draw from memory, and great things are coming to Kokomo. Thank you.
Any questions?
You state the first paragraph, you got 30 years experience. Do you have a shop in Kokomo now?
Sorry. What was that?
In the first paragraph, you stated you have 30 years of experience. Do you have a shop in Kokomo at this time?
No, he has 30 years of experience at tattooing. He has been tattooing since 1989. He had a tattoo shop in Montgomery, Alabama. We had 2 tattoo shops together. Oni Ink Tattoo and Tailor Made.
In paragraph 2, you state keeping good hours. I don't know what keeping good hours mean. Could you clarify that for me?
Not just being there too late, you know.
That's what I want to hear. Noon to
Sorry.
9, fair to say?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's all I got.
Anybody from the audience have any questions? Mr. Sheehan?
Before we do the staff findings, I would like to give a little bit of the background of why we're here tonight. This business has been a tattoo parlor in the past. Dana and Charles took it over, or Ezra, I'm sorry, took it over, and they thought they were fine to operate a tattoo shop since it had been one in the past. We had a discussion with the health department, and so we called Dana, and we just want to make it legal for her. And that property that they're in is zoned neighborhood commercial, so there is no permitted use for neighborhood commercial for a tattoo parlor. So we had two choices, either rezone it to a higher zoning like a C1 or a C2, or ask for a use variance to the permitted uses for the tattoo shop. So we felt like the use variance was the better way to go, because in a neighborhood commercial area like that, I didn't want to put a C1 or C2 commercial zone in there. So that's why we're suggesting the use variance for the tattoo shop. Does that make sense to everybody?
And the variance, like you said earlier, stays with the
The
property.
variance stays with the property, that's correct. Special exception does not, but variances stay with the property. Okay, so you ready for my staff
I'm ready
findings?
for your
Okay.
staff findings.
Staff findings for case P23, V24, the approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The approval of this use will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the community, as the petitioner will still be required to meet all stipulations put forth by the health department. The requested use of a tattoo piercing parlor will utilize an existing tenant space within an existing building. No new building will take place. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. As the property is already zoned for small neighborhood businesses, the addition of a tattoo shop will not impact the surrounding area. The shop will operate mainly by appointment only. The NC zone is prescribed for small-scale commercial uses that provide products and services primarily to the adjacent neighborhoods. And this is exactly what the petitioners intend to do. The strict application of the terms of this zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty. This situation shall not be self-imposed nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction of economic gain. As the location has previously held a tattoo shop, the petitioner and owner were under the impression that this was a permitted use and signed a lease in addition to paying several months' rent on the shop. This confusion created a practical difficulty for the petitioner, as they now have leased the space and paid for it but cannot use it for their intended purpose. The variance will stay with the property for future use, even if it changes hands or is sold.
Thank you. Have any more questions from anybody in the audience? More questions from anybody on the board?
Do we know how long it was previously a tattoo shop?
I do not. Do you guys know how long it was?
What was that?
How long had it been a tattoo shop in the past?
A year, I think, just
oh,
right at a year.
okay.
Yeah, it took him like a long time to get over because he had to know the whole, inside.
Okay.
He was ready to go over, but he was at least certified for 6 months.
Okay, thank you.
So you are good to go with the health department now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked to the health department, they're all good with the health
Okay.
department, so no problems there.
Anything else?
I guess my only thought, not that I'm a voting member, but is if the board wanted to, and not saying that you have to, but it's conditioned upon this operator as opposed to going with the property. But I just want to bring that to the board's attention, that it could be conditioned upon this tenant, which would make it more of almost like a special exception as opposed to.
So we can do that even though the zoning ordinance says the variance stays with the property?
If it's a condition.
It's a condition
if
from the
it's a
board?
condition approval.
Okay.
But not that we have to,
Right.
I just wanna make that.
We talked about that earlier, didn't we, Greg? Or, not Greg, Mike.
Yeah, it's best of both worlds, really.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. That's exactly what we talked about earlier.
It's up to the board. It's
I
up
didn't
to you
make the
guys.
motion.
Hmm?
I did not make the motion.
I did. Okay, so we can amend the motion. Is there any other discussion? I know, do you have anything you wanted to add to it?
Do I?
Are you
Yeah,
saying you
or,
want to amend the
like-
motion to just for this owner?
Yeah, condition upon this, would it be
And then we need.
petitioner?
Yes, yes.
Okay, we can amend the motion stated earlier on case P 23-V-24 to amend it upon condition, for condition of this, of the petitioner for this case.
Second.
Okay, can I just want to clarify the petitioner, what they're attempting to do here is a variance stays with the property. So if the current owner or you or whoever would sell that property, the variance for the tattoo shop would stay with that property. What they're suggesting here is we amend it, so as long as you operate the tattoo shop, the variance is in place. If you leave, then that variance goes away, and the new owner would have to come back and do the same thing as you're doing. It doesn't affect you at this point in time, but it could affect someone down the road. So just wanted to clarify that. Is that fair?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Greg.
You're welcome.
So we call for a vote?
Do I have any other questions from any board members? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thank you.
Motion passed.
Congratulations.
I think that answered.
All right, the next case is case P24V24, petition of Patrick Clifford requesting a variance of 9 feet to section 3.36 minimum side yard setback and a variance of 18% to section 3.36 maximum lot coverage in a C2 zone. This is for property at 3040 South of Fountain Street.
I move that we approve case number P 24-V-24 and adopt the findings of the petitioner as those of this board and make those findings part of the record.
Second.
Thank you. The petitioner,
Say my name? Okay.
state your name and address.
My name is Patrick H. Clifford. My address is 1627 South Executive Drive here in Kokomo, Indiana. And Jessica just said for me to read the petition finding of the facts. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, moral, or general welfare of the community. Allowing the expansion will keep our operations safe and contained within our property, preventing trucks from congregating near streets and maintaining pedestrian safety. This growth supports local jobs and services, enhancing the community's welfare. While the project slightly exceeds imperative surface limits, we will manage stormwater responsibly to meet city standard, ensuring no adverse impact of health and safety. Number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantial adverse manner. The variance will not hinder adjacent property use or value. Our expansion is designed to maximum internal space without affecting neighboring access or operations. The addition matches our existing building, looks and it maintains the area's professional character. Our success may even positively influence nearby property value by reinforcing area stability and economic growth. Number three, the strict application of terms of this zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulty. This situation shall not be self-imposed nor be based on perceived reduction or restriction of economic gain. The strict setback requirement can create an operational challenge for us as our business relies on safe, efficient semi-truck turnaround space. This necessity isn't self-imposed. It results from the handling of large sign deliveries. Moving the building would leave unutilized space and making truck operations inefficient and impacting our ability to serve the community safely and effectively. We do get a lot of semis coming in, going around the back, and there's not really much of a place for them to turn around. So they really need to be able to keep that open for the semis.
Can you help me understand where they turn around based on this map?
It's a challenge. It's a challenge. Basically, that 10 feet could make it pretty more difficult. But we do have,
So Pat,
Arlo
they
Steel
normally
come
come in
through
and go
there with their
north as far
semis.
as they can go and then back out? Is that how they get out of there?
no, they're able to turn around there.
How?
How?
How? Which way does he go? Which way does he point his cab? to
They
get?
drive
Straight
in
in,
the
okay.
gate, all right? And they're able to pretty much back up and they pretty much,
Okay, so he
maneuver
goes all the way
around.
out by the tower.
Right.
Okay.
You get it?
Yeah, he comes all the way out to here, and does his delivery here, and then when he leaves, he goes here. comes here.
Okay, but that's.
Go ahead.
where he wants to go.
And here's,
Okay. All right.
Okay,
that's why I stand
All right.
all right. It's tight.
I'm sorry.
It's tight.
Yeah, it is. That's one thing that I didn't expect when I bought that building 6 years ago. I never expected to really be where we're at now. So the deliveries we've been getting have been, especially with some of the ones we've been getting, Taco Bell, McDonald's, and not McDonald's, Burger King.
Let me ask you this, Rick. Is this property on here, or?
That's what Beacon says.
That's what Beacon said.
I mean, that's, Beacon's not exact, but
Yeah.
it's close, no doubt.
Okay. Have any comments, questions from anybody in the audience?
I'm Scott Perkins. We own the property directly to the north of Pat, and then also a property to the south, couple lots down at 3120 south of Fountain. And we also own 3038 south of Fountain, it's a 6-acre parcel that we're developing right now. And I've had conversation with Pat, and I think he understands my concern. But the biggest concern I have is the maintenance on a property. If you are virtually on the property line, it makes it impossible. You cannot do that. And although we have a good relationship now, I mean, we may not own our property in a year or 5 years, and they may not own their property in a year or 5 years. And if in the event of a natural disaster, a tornado, which has gone through there, Arnold Court is right in that general area, and there's no buildings on the north side of Arnold Court right now because the tornado went through and demolished it. So it's not out of the question that something could happen, a tornado, a fire, whatever. And the biggest concern I have is how do you maintain a property if you are on the property line? That is all contingent upon the neighbors allowing that. That's a contingent upon there not being a security issue. We have self-storage, so our plan was for our fencing to go up to the property line. Well, if we go to the property line and they're on the property line, then you've got 1 foot to maintain something, and I don't know that that's possible. So I have a serious concern about that. I'd love to see Pat be able to do his project. I just don't think putting a building 1 foot from the property line is a good idea. I think currently their existing building is virtually on the property line. And if you look at how that sits, you can't put air conditioners in it. You just can't do it. You can't exit the rear of the building without being on someone else's property. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The other concern I have, which Pat already addressed, and I'm sure that will be taken care of, but we have a large retention pond on our property that we just put in that was extremely expensive. And in years past, my father-in-law owned our property, and unfortunately, he passed away about 8 years ago. But shortly after he passed away, I'll give you a little scenario. We were approached from the Indiana Medical Center that's right next to us about running a drain onto our property that would make it easy for them to get rid of some water. We allowed them to do that. However, now we take water from the medical center that's next to us. Hindsight, maybe we shouldn't have done that, but we did. And then we also have the retention pond in the back. So I would hope that they'll be taking care of drainage. Back to the property line, I'll give you another scenario that recently happened to us. So we own 6 acres. Our buildings are, one side we're 25 feet off of the property line. On the side that where Pat's at, we're approximately 19 feet off of the property line. When we were putting in our buildings, we ran into a little bit of a snag, and we needed to get large equipment into the back of our property. Arnold Court is what appears to be a city street. And I looked on Beacon. I was able to get a hold of the owner, who is a friend of mine, and I said, hey, would it be okay if we come in on your street? Again, looks like a public street, with concrete trucks and dump trucks. We'll pay to take care of any damage to, vacant ground or anything like that as we get in. His answer to me was, I love you as a friend, but no, I can't allow you to do that. And the reason I can't is because I don't want to have damage to my road with concrete trucks and dump trucks and heavy equipment. That's a scenario that to me seemed at first unrealistic, but then when I looked at his side of it, you spent an extreme amount of money to put a road in, and I totally understood it. And so what we did is we paid to put a temporary drive along the side of our building where we have 25 feet to do that. So in our case, we were able to access the rear of our property because we had 25 feet to do so. Now, if we had built on our property and if we had paid the extra money to put the firewalls in and everything that would have taken, we still could have had our building there. However, it would have been virtually impossible for us to access the rear of our property without doing damage somewhere in the front. So, much as I love Pat, and I think they've got a great business, I think this is a really bad idea to allow someone to build a building 1 foot from the property line. We're not downtown where you've got buildings right next to one another and that's your property line. We're talking about a place where it's not necessary to do that, and it could create a potential problem in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from any members of the board?
Do you have any other options?
What would be the 10-feet space between? The challenge is going to be that when I do build it 10 feet away from the fence, right from south of the property line, that 10-foot space is just going to be the catch-all. So nothing I'm going to be able to get to it. Even 10 feet is not near enough for any of the equipment that I have, some of the signs I have. So, in my opinion, it would just be a waste. That 10 feet would be just nothing. It'd be grass. No, it won't be grass. It's already paved. So it's still going to be the imperative, whatever you call that word is, imperative surface. So that's what it comes down to. So they wouldn't have any access to drive back in there.
Just spitballing here, Pat and Scott, both of you. What if you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like the concern is with the 1 foot, you're not going to be able to maintain, especially if you put your fence up. So, and if we go the 10 foot, which is what the setback is, that's going to encroach too much where you can't get your semis to turn around. What if we would work out a compromise to go 5 or 6 feet, pull that building up 5 or 6 feet, where you would have room to get in there to maintain. Would that work for both of you, or not? I'm just spitballing here.
Again, I'm not trying to be
I know.
a pain
I know.
because we have done a lot of development in Kokomo and we've been granted a lot of grace in cases to do some of the developments that we have. However, I disagree with Pat a little bit here, and all due respect, Pat. It's the 10 feet is not just wasted space. There's reasons that we have side yard and rear yard setbacks. And those reasons are because we have to be able to access our properties, number one, from our property. And you've got to be able to maintain the property. 5 feet, I mean, even if it was repainting a building or redoing a roof or washing a building, I mean, there's things that take more than 5 feet. It takes equipment. In the event that there was, say a building burns down, I don't know how you rebuild that property without being on someone else's property. So, I mean, I feel like 10 feet is, I think that it should be a minimum. I don't know how you, I mean, I know there are cases where it's less than that, but in this case, I understand Pat's concern. However, I think you've got to have enough room to be able to get in there and at least maintain the property that you own without being on someone else's property, and potentially creating a problem in the future. So I feel like 10 feet is, I don't see any reason why we would steer from that requirement in this case.
Is the proposed building going to be entirely on the current concrete, or are you going to expand the concrete closer to your boundary?
What concrete are we talking about?
Like, just show me here. So, right now, there's a concrete pad, right, that extends on your property?
Building. No, this is the building right here, right?
Right.
Yeah, this is north.
Yep.
No, there's no concrete pad. It's all asphalt.
Oh, sorry, okay,
Yeah, okay, I'm
asphalt,
sorry.
all right.
Okay, good, yeah.
Yeah.
So is it going to be entirely on this asphalt here, the proposed building?
Mhm.
So on your, you have it right on the property line as it's depicted in this? Let's make
So
sure.
that's where the building is. The current
Yeah.
building is right on the line, right now,
This current building is online?
pretty much.
It's close, but we're talking,
It's like about inches. I asked Scott Pitcher about that, and he said that, I could work with Wes to set up kind of like a, I think what he said, like a retaining, or some kind of like an easement to do it against everything on that lower side of the building. My current building
Mhm.
is pretty much on the west property, I think Kokomo Glass.
does it look, I guess from Beacon, it looks like there's a couple feet of space between this asphalt pad and your property line.
Because there's not,
But I don't,
right.
but the building here shows that it's, the building depicted shows that it's off of this asphalt pad.
It's, when he put his fence up, he put his fence up right on the line. So when they did the survey, this Beacon is not all that, I'm sorry, Beacon is not all that 100% accurate. It's not
So
really.
you did go get a survey?
He got a survey.
We got a survey.
Scott got a survey?
When we started, it had nothing to do with what Pat's doing, but we have our property surveyed.
I'm sorry, when you,
Started.
you gotta come to the microphone, Scott, sorry, because it's being recorded, so. And I won't pick you up if you're sitting back there.
Sorry, we had it surveyed, it had nothing to do with what Pat's doing, but when we started our development, then we had everything surveyed. And the property line, he's correct, his property line, I don't know that their building's on the property line, but it is very, very close. And it creates challenges, I think, especially when you're making the decision to allow someone to build that close to the property line. It's one thing when Pat purchased his building, maybe he didn't realize that, and I'm sure that will never be an issue. However, it could be, right? If Kokomo Glass sold their building to someone and didn't like the fact that there are air conditioners on their property, that could be an issue. How do you handle that in one of those scenarios? In our case, all I'm saying is there's absolutely no reason to change from a reasonable requirement of 10 feet. I mean, you can barely get a pickup truck on a 10-foot wide side yard. And it's designed so that you can maintain your property and so you can access your property. Now, Pat can't access his property on that side because his main building sits on the property line. But just because one building was built improperly, it should have never been built there to begin with. That's a fact, and it happened. But just because part of the building is built on the property line doesn't mean you say, okay, let's just allow future expansion on the property line. It creates challenges, and it creates challenges in particular for us because we happen to own the property that is directly adjacent to where that building is going to go. So not necessarily challenges now, could be future challenges, yes.
So what you're saying is the north part of his building is not on his property.
No, his building is on his property. The existing building is on his property. It's really close to the property line. What I'm saying is the new building that they want to put it virtually the same distance off of the property line that the existing building is now. Your existing building's a foot or so off, I would guess, right?
Is there asphalt to the north of your property?
His
on the
line
building?
is right there. Yeah.
Yes. So there's a sidewalk that runs across the northern side of your building?
I think that's a shadow.
Yeah. If you're looking at this picture and thinking there's 5 or 6 feet
It's a shadow.
over, that's the shadow. It's, if you,
Yeah, I think the
Jeff just
building,
found
Oh, no, I'm not, I'm looking at,
no,
Okay.
we were,
yeah, I'm looking at Beacon.
yeah, I think the building's right on the property line. So Pat, there's no way you can pull that building back 10 foot and,
Oh, yeah, we'll do it. That's pretty much the whole reason why the variance, and we can do a little bit of dispute with them, which is what he's asking me to do, which is fine.
So you're saying,
If it's pretty much his case, and he has a legitimate case, it's just gonna be the 10 feet, and I'll basically kind of like, I'll be pretty frank with it, and I'll understand your position.
you're saying you can move your new building farther south?
South of the property line.
And you can make that work, though. I mean, you think
It'll be a challenge. That was the whole reason why that I asked for, using that variance. And, but we got a little bit of a dispute with him, which is fine. But I understand your position too.
I don't have a problem giving you part of a variance. I have.
Well, if he's okay with
no problem
5
giving you
feet,
10, but I don't know if 8 would work. If 2's the difference, I don't know.
right. I mean, if I eliminate the fence and, build a 5 foot south of the property line, I think that would pretty much, if it's okay with him. If I go ahead and just go, we compromise between the two, and I'll go ahead and build it 5 feet south of the property line, and I'll eliminate that fence, because that fence is mine,
Yeah.
so that's fine.
What again, I just want everyone here to think logically. How can you maintain a building on less than 10 feet? I don't see how you can possibly do that. We have a lot of property in Kokomo, and there have been many instances where you've got to mow it, you've got to paint it, you've got to repair a piece of siding, you've got to repair a roof. I mean, you don't build them and they just last forever. That does not happen. So I do not see how you can maintain a building on 5 feet. I just don't see how it possibly can happen. I think 10 feet is the answer. Now, if you guys say, hey, we disagree with you, that's your choice. But I will tell you my piece. And if you decide that this is something that you want to approve, I'm not going to make a fuss over it, but I am going to tell you that I think it's physically impossible to maintain a property on less than what's being required here, 10 feet. And in the future, again, if we don't own our property 10 years from now, and they need to have repairs done, and the new owner says, absolutely not, you're not going to get on our property, or they decide they want to come to you and say, or we decide we want to come to you and say, hey, we want a variance now. We want to be 5 feet off the property line. Now you got two buildings that are 10 feet apart. That's creating a problem when you don't need to, when there's plenty of land right there. Maybe not necessarily would it make it easy for Pat to do what he's asking to do, but there is plenty of land to build a substantial building without moving the property line on that side. Now, again, that being said, I'm not here to be a complete pain and make it impossible for you to build your building, but I just want you all to think logically about how can you allow somebody to do something that could create a problem for the neighbor next door later on, or could potentially create a problem for him on the maintenance side. So that's all I'm saying.
Number one, I mean, in all fairness to everybody, you can't think of all those scenarios that could possibly happen. I mean, there are things that can happen. I do know in residential areas, we have 3 and 5 foot setbacks. Now, with Mr. Perkins, can you maintain a building in 3 foot? Probably not. But that's, you know, and let's face it, I'm an old guy. A couple of you guys are older than I am. You know, back in the day, there was never an issue. If you had to get on your neighbor's property to fix your property, it was allowed to happen. That's just the way it was back in the day. Unfortunately, times have changed, so I see both sides of it. I really do. And obviously, I'm not a voting member either. It's up to you. I mean, it would be great if Pat could pull that back 10 foot and make Mr. Perkins happy and still be able to build his building and make everything work for him. That would be best case scenario. Whether that can happen or not, I don't know. So
I think that's what we're trying to do.
that's
is
what we're trying to figure out.
Come to a compromise that works. You know, that's really what this is all about.
So Pat, if we pull that back, if you pull that back 10 feet to the south,
Right.
what is that going to do? How is that going to complicate it more than what it already does?
That extra 10 feet taken off would actually create more of a challenge for the semis to turn around.
Could they still get turned around?
Yes. Safely, I don't know. I mean, I can't really guarantee that I'm taking a chance of, you know, them turning around, but it's gonna be really tight enough, you know, with me gaining that 10 feet, but me to back it up that 10 feet.
Well, let me ask you another question. Can you pull the building 10 feet to the south and take a couple of feet off the side of the building? Reduce the size of your building a little bit to
Well, we talked about that.
give that semi a couple extra feet to.
Right. My trucks are pretty close to 36 feet long. All right. And so when you look at a 48-foot building, that only allows a 10-foot gap. And the whole thing, what we're looking at is some of the jobs that they do, we pretty much position the forest future jobs, like bringing some of the signs in so the guys are able to put it right there in that 10-foot gap in the building. But if we go cut the building down to 38, let's just say 38 feet, all right, and go 10 feet away, it would be to the point where if it's going to come down to me only able to build a 38-foot building, I'll do it. That might be what I might have to do, which is understandable.
Well, my understanding of BZA 101 is maybe the reason we're here is if the petitioner can show a hardship, we're supposed to consider that hardship and see if we agree with it. I don't know how much room he needs to turn a semi around. On the other side about giving, I don't mind moving some, but 100% bothers me a whole bunch. Somewhere between, I could live with if you could work it out and be happy. He's shown a hardship if he says the semi's tried to turn around. Now, to the degree of it, that's where I'm from. The maintenance of the building, I assume the north side of the building is you're not gonna do anything on the north side of the building, right? You're not gonna have a picnic area or anything over there. I mean, You get in there and paint it, or the roofer can roof it, the maintenance part, I don't see.
So I totally disagree with that if, again, in the event that there was major damage to a building, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about painting a building. What I'm
If there's
talking,
major damage to the building, he'll have to redecide inside a site plan and completely come over and do all this whole thing again. So the whole tornado thing doesn't hold water. If the tornado takes
Sure
the
it
whole
does.
building, no, it doesn't. If the tornado takes the whole
Sure it
building
does.
down, no, it doesn't.
It
If the
most certainly
tornado-
does.
Can I speak?
yeah, you go ahead.
If the tornado would take down the whole building, he's got to start from scratch one and go, yes, don't shake your head because you're wrong. He can't just sit there and do that, so your tornado, your access as far as dump trucks go, or as concrete trucks, he's got to drive on the south side of each building. That he can get a cement truck back here. So I don't hold any water. So I don't understand you.
Well,
you're
I
saying-
will totally tell you what happens if there's damage to the back of a building. If the rear of the building is damaged, and he's got to take care of the rear of that building. These are scenarios that you can't see and I can't see, but I don't want to deal with it in 5 years because there's an issue with the back of a building and all of a sudden there's maintenance that needs to be done on that building. That's what I'm saying. You've got to get to the rear of that building and you've got to do repairs to the rear of that building, and 2 feet does not allow you to do it.
I'm saying-
The other issue is you've got to be able to get out of that building in an emergency. I'm certain that when this goes to the state, there's going to have to be rear access from that building. You can't do it on 2 feet. You can't even open a door on 2 feet without being on someone else's property. So the maintenance does come into
If you have a door
play.
opening on the north side, on the west side, a door opening on the east side, and a garage door on the south side, the fire department's not gonna tell him you can't build that there. He's gonna be able to get out of the building.
Is that right? Is that what the state's going to say? Is the state going to say you don't have to put a rear exit on that building?
Bill, what you're
I don't
calling
think,
rear.
respectfully, I don't think anybody's here from the state, respectfully.
Right.
But you guys can continue to debate if you would like, but he's gonna have to get state design release one way or the other, right?
I sure think so.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Would you state your name and address?
Brian Wilson, 5281 West, 100 North. My question, I guess, is what's the building construction? Is it pole barn siding? So metal siding, very little maintenance there. Excuse me. And he's concerned about space and maintaining, I believe, scaffolding, 36 inches deep. I could put a row of scaffolding up there and be able to stack that all the way up and to the roof, all the way to the ground, and be able to maintain the visible appearance of the building and sturdiness or whatever concerns may or may not happen with weather that may or may not happen. Just something I'd like to point out, maybe.
Thank you.
All right. We're ready for you, Mr. Sheehan.
Huh?
Are we ready for you yet?
I think you better decide where you want to go with this before I do anything else.
Okay.
I mean, we're spinning our wheels here.
Yep.
I think we need to decide I think we need some more discussion from the board personally, to decide what the board's feelings are.
So is it still an option for you to change the size?
Yeah.
Is that an
Well-
ultimate decision that can be made this evening?
Well, that's a good question. I've already paid the architect, John Beachy, with Mar Design. He's the one who got my blueprint already printed up and everything like that. So I'll probably have to start all over again and tell him.
I'm just gonna suggest, Pat, there's another option here. I don't know what your time frame is, but the other option is, obviously, there's some conflict here.
Right, yeah, no
You know,
doubt.
so I hope I'm not out of line, but maybe it's a case where we want to continue this and let you go back to Mr. Beachy and see if there's a way to redesign it to potentially make the board happy, make Mr. Perkins happy, and see what happens. You know, that's an option. We could continue it for 30 days
Right.
to give you some more time to work all this out, hopefully.
Right.
To everybody's satisfaction, or at least to the majority of the board's satisfaction, work it out, and then go from there. I mean, that's an option.
Right.
Am I out of line, counsel, for saying that?
No, and I think it'd be your motion, Pat, if you want to, or it would be your, entitled to one, continuance.
Yeah.
And another thing for the board to consider is that regardless if this is heard tonight or if it's heard maybe next month, that we probably need to separate voting for the two variances. So we're voting on the setback as well as
Right, gotcha.
the 18% on the maximum lot coverage. Would be my thought. but
I agree. I think we need to vote on those separately. I agree with that 100%.
What are you doing? What are you talking about doing? I didn't hear what you're talking about.
So you're
Talking about-
requesting two variances here.
Right, one is on the provisional,
Do what?
whatever, that, what do you call that word, for the
The lot
asphalt?
coverage?
Yeah.
Yeah, the lot
Maximum
coverage,
lot coverage,
okay,
you're
yeah.
asking for the 18% variance, which I don't know, I guess if there was an issue with that as well.
No, I mean, that, address that initially, I mean, they'll put the proper drainage in. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think that's an issue as long as the water's going where it needs to.
Okay. And not that we have to vote on either tonight, but
Right,
I guess
right.
the question is for you, do you want to vote on these variances tonight, or would you like additional time to go see if there's a redesign that makes everybody happy? And that's purely your choice,
Right,
to have the board vote tonight, or to see if there's maybe a design where everybody can live with it, but it's your call.
I think it's a good idea to just pretty much postpone this
For
to
1
the
month?
next meeting, yeah.
Okay.
I think that'd be a good idea, and I may not even do it, be pretty frank about it, but I don't want to deal with taking your time and wasting your time going through what.
You're not
what's
wasting our
with
time
them.
at all.
Well, that's fine.
I think the
But I
board.
probably,
I mean, that's the purpose
I'll
of-
decide what.
Yeah, I mean, that's why the
I'll
board's
basically
here.
appreciate giving me the time, so next month we'll kind of review.
Let's,
And
yeah,
then kinda
I
go
mean,
from there.
if you want to continue it for 30 days, go back to Mr. Beachy and see if you can redesign. You know, I would keep that 10-foot in mind, and then see if you could redesign it to
Yeah.
that, and then if you decide you can't or you don't want to, then you can always call our office and say, I want to remove the case, and we'll remove it from the agenda.
Right.
But if you want to hear it next month, we can certainly do that as
Great.
well.
I appreciate it.
That's what the board's here for, Pat. You
Right.
know, it's-
Good deal.
You're not bothering us at all. That's why we're here.
Appreciate it.
So if that's moved 10 feet back, or the building's modified so that they meet that, and the variance is eliminated,
That's,
you
yeah.
would still need to come back for the 18%.
He would still need to come back for the lot coverage, but the first variance can go away because the setback in a commercial zone is 10 feet. So if he moves that building 10 feet to the north or to the south, 10 feet off of the property line, that variance would go away.
So should we vote on the 18% tonight?
That's what I was wondering.
Could change. It could change.
Yeah, that could change too. when
Depends
you
on what
move
the size of the building
You
is.
know, if you decide to limit the size of the building, that could potentially go away as well, so. My thought,
Yeah, but
Well, I mean,
as long-
it's all asphalt back there now.
As long as we could, if we vote for on coverage and he doesn't make the building larger, less than is still approved.
That's
If we 18%, he changes the building, he needs 16%, it's still approved because we give him 8% on that, no?
Correct, but if it's changed to be 19, then you would have to come back. Or you would have to apply for another variance, actually.
It's gonna come back anyway.
How would that change? Because where the pole barn is going, it's all asphalt. There's no grass there whatsoever. So it really wouldn't change that number. The only grass that I got is over there on the southeast corner. Then I got some grass up there in the north end on the front. But that's about it.
So even if you move the building 10 foot to the south,
It's still gonna be
the same-
asphalt,
Still gonna be the same size building,
pretty much.
Same lot coverage.
lot coverage. want to separate the two?
Well, that's not my call, that's you guys' call. You guys are the boss.
I
I'll do
understand,
whatever.
but I'm trying to decide.
I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I don't, my personal opinion is, I don't know that it matters one way or the other.
Yeah.
If you want to vote for one of them tonight to get them off the books, if that's what your thought is, I'm fine with that, but I don't know that it really matters. The case is probably going to come back to us anyway, it sounds like, so that's just my thought, but.
TJ, can
Right
you
now,
bring
it's half and
those
half,
blueprints?
Greg.
Can you bring those blueprints in so we can actually see a better visual?
Yeah.
So if you do come back with new blueprints, can you bring those drawings back in so we can actually see it better than
Beacon?
Beacon?
Sure.
Yeah, because I think that'd be a better plan.
I think he just finished it the other day. Yeah, good point. Yeah, if I want to go to road chat, yes.
Right.
Yeah, just,
Or you're having.
just get it to us and we'll distribute it among the board members.
That'd be cool.
All right, Pat, well, it's your call, not really ours. So do you want us to vote on the 18% tonight, or do you want to wait?
Let's do the 18% tonight, get that one out of the way, and then all we gotta do the setback. If we go ahead and move that now, that'll save you guys some time and these people here too, behind me.
You need an amendment to the motion? Separate? Probably.
I think we can, yeah, let's do that. So I guess from maintenance standpoint, petitioner is requesting and is entitled to continuance on the variance of 9 feet for the minimum side yard setback. Just continue, and then we probably need an amended motion to go ahead and vote on the 18% of the maximum lot coverage.
Okay, I'll go ahead and, I amend the motion, the previous motion to include the voting on the 18% of the maximum lot coverage.
Second.
Any other discussion?
Any other discussion? Everybody understand what we're voting on?
Well, if we're gonna vote, I need to read my findings,
Yep.
correct?
That would be a good idea.
Because I've not done those yet, so if we're going to vote, we
Okay,
probably
let's-
need to, okay.
The motion, no.
Yeah.
All right, so staff findings for case P24, V24, approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The proposed addition will not create any safety hazards, block vision, or encroach on any easement. The approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including the variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. As this is already a heavily commercial area, the addition will not change the character or spirit of the area. The addition will not cross any property lines and will be an appropriate distance from other structures. The addition will match the existing buildings. The strict application of the terms of this zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty. This situation shall not be self-imposed, nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction of economic gain. As there is a large ingress egress easement on the property and the existing building is already right on the property line, the petitioner faces a practical difficulty with their expansion. If the variances are not granted, the petitioner will be unable to fully utilize the property as desired, leaving them to create new plans for the property with less space available to use. Okay.
No. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Everybody understand what we're voting on? All those in favor of the amended motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passed. For 18%.
And a quick suggestion maybe for all parties, if we're coming back, if we're back for this 9-foot variance on the minimum side yard setback, I think the blueprints would help for maybe your end, Pat,
Okay.
Scott, maybe the survey, so that we can see exactly that boundary line and the scale of how close it is, because I don't know that that's necessarily accurate on Beacon, but that would help us if we're back here next month.
Right,
All right?
sound like a plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all, appreciate it.
Got that out of the way.
Okay, Mr. President, next case is case P25 V24. The petition of Embracing Hope of Howard County, Pastor Smith requesting the variance of 75% to section 6.48 parking in front of the primary structure. This is property at 1104 North Bell Street.
Thank you. Do I have a motion and a second?
I move that we approve case number P25-V-24 and adopt the findings of petitioner as those of the board and make those findings part of the record.
Second?
Thank you. Have petitioner or representative before?
Tori Tripp, Tripp Engineering Consulting, 401 South Second Street, Converse, representing Embracing Hope. Just to give you a brief summary of the project, this is the historic Douglas School here on the north side. They will be adding an entrance on the south side of the building. The current entrance is on the west. And the south side entrance, it'll be handicap accessible. They're going to put an elevator. And then they want to add a parking lot to that grass area. So before the meeting, I passed you all out kind of a picture so that you could kind of see what the parking lot's going to look like. And we're asking for the variance because the parking lot would face two roadways. And so I'll read the petitioner's finding of fact, and then I can answer any questions that you may have. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The museum will repurpose the historic Douglas School and will provide a safe and accessible environment for the community to engage in local history while enriching the community's cultural and educational landscape. Currently, the museum has no on-site parking. Adding the parking will allow visitors access to the museum while making available on-street parking for the neighbors. Number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in any substantial adverse manner. The adjacent properties will see no change as all improvements will be contained on site, and the transformation of the historic Douglas School will enhance the neighborhood's appeal. Number three, the strict application of the terms of this zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty. The situation shall not be self-imposed nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction of economic gain. The parcel is bordered by two roadways, Elm Street and Bell Street. In order to meet ordinance requirements, on-site parking would need to be confined to the north side of the building where an underground vault is located, making this area unusable. Therefore, without the variance approval, visitors will need to utilize street parking. I can answer any questions you may have.
Do I have any questions from any members of the board? Do I have any questions, comments from anybody in the audience? If you would, state your name and...
My name is Catherine Morgan Putnam. I live at 1111 North Bell Street. I am directly across from Douglas. I'm the one who got, all of our neighbors got the variance in the mail like everyone else. And now hearing that, Douglas is going to be made a museum, I'm directly in front of it. We've owned our home for over 70 years. The house was built in 1954 by my grandfather. So to state that we're now putting parking in the front of our home, I kind of want to know, A, this neighborhood has not been upgraded or even seen, besides when Douglas started upgrading their side, they upgraded the sidewalks on that side, but neglected our side of the street, which is directly in front of Douglas. So, if we're going to put a parking lot on this side, can the city not, look at our side as well as the parking and the traffic? I do have small children, so children do play outside. I want to make sure that this isn't going to affect our home.
The question I have, you say you live on Bell Street.
Yes, I do.
Ms. Tripp, you said that the parking lot's going to be facing Elm Street, is that right?
Well, it's facing actually both.
It faces
It's right
both,
there on
yes.
the corner in the grass
But
area.
the
I can
majority
show
of the
you.
lot is on the south side of the building.
Yeah, the parking lot will be on the south. So here's where the school's at. And then you can see there'll be a new drive. And then this is where the new entrance will be.
Okay.
And so there'll be an exit onto the alley also. So we're gonna add 15 parking spots in
Okay.
there for people.
So what are you doing with the parking lot that's directly behind it?
That, we're not doing anything with that. That's actually zoned residential. This was rezoned to institutional, so everything's going to be confined here.
Okay.
Yeah, the parking lot behind is not being touched with this.
Okay, that was always
Yes.
assumed by the neighborhood that that parking lot was Douglas's parking lot. We've never had anyone ever use that parking lot.
Okay.
So, this is the first time in 30 years that Douglas has been wanting to do something
Right.
with it. So yes, I wanted to make sure it's not affecting our properties. That's all.
And obviously, with the parking lot, it should make things safer instead of having all on-street parking
Yes.
with children playing, but the parking lot should make it a lot safer.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have any questions from any members of the board? No, Mr. Sheehan?
Yes, staff findings for case P25, V24, the approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The variance concerning the placement of the parking will not create any safety hazards, block vision, or encroach on any recorded easements or property lines. It will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the community. The addition of dedicated parking for the site will aid public safety. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Granting the variance to allow parking to all be to one side of the structure will not impact the use or value of adjacent properties. In fact, it will leave more street parking available to the public as the new museum will have its own dedicated lot. The strict application of the terms of this zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty. This situation shall not be self-imposed, nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction of economic gain. The petitioner faces a practical difficulty in the fact that the property is a corner lot with 2 street frontages and 2 front yards. Another practical difficulty is the location of a vault preventing parking from being added to the north side of the lot. If the variance is not granted, there is nowhere else the petitioner could put parking, and it will hinder the new historical museum from opening.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from the board? Anybody from the audience? Not, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Do we have any further business from any members of the board?
I have no further business tonight.
I will entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? This meeting is adjourned.